The single biggest problem when it comes to trying to buy something and do some research, whether it's on YouTube or Amazon or anywhere on the internet, is fake reviews, dishonest reviews, biased reviews, trying to tell who's honest, who's dishonest, who you can trust, who's a shill. It gets maddening, and you can just lose days trying to do research to figure out what the truth is about something you're about to invest your hard-earned money into. Well, I'm going to give you some tools here. I'm going to show you behind the curtain there as a content creator, some of the stuff that we know that you don't. And I'll be honest, a bunch of you think you do, and you don't. So let's dig into it. Here, the first thing you got to think about is paid reviews. Who is getting paid to do a review? Now, I'm going to speak, in this video, we're going to speak specifically about YouTube, but this could probably be applied about anywhere. So it's anybody who takes money to do a review, whether they're doing an ad, an insert, a full review. That all basically falls into the same genre. The two questions you have to ask yourself is, does the person fully disclose that they are getting paid, all right? Now, first of all, that's a federal law, all right? Anytime you get any kind of remunerations for putting up content, especially on YouTube, you have to, and specifically to YouTube, you have to disclose at the beginning an obvious disclosure saying, hey, this is paid, okay? And then we do it at the beginning, we do it at the end, and then we also do it down in the video details. Like if we put links, and we always try to put links for anything we talk about down there, because that's what people are coming here to look at, is like, hey, what do I, is this a good product? And if so, how can I buy it? Well, then right next to that link, we'll say like, hey, by the way, so-and-so paid for this. Thanks for so-and-so for sponsoring this video or something like that. Or they had something in the video. So there's full disclosure. That's kind of one of the things that will help. It's not a complete, remedy, but if the person's disclosing that they got paid, at least they have at least that level of honesty, or at least fear of the national government, all right? So, but then a lot of people say, well, hey, if you get paid for this stuff, even if you're being honest, it makes you look like a shill. To which I ask them, like, hey, if you got paid to do this, would you fake a review? And unfortunately, a lot of them respond eagerly. In fact, yes, they would love to do that. Unfortunately, that says more about them than it does about us. There's the old saying of a thief is the one with the most locks on their door. But, as I said, a shill is somebody, people get confused with this. A shill is somebody who's in on a con game, who doesn't tell you that they are in on the con game, all right? So the person disclosing that right there, they're clearly not a shill, but they still may have some bias because, look at it. They're getting paid to do this, so there's going to be probably some level of bias there for a lot of people. Now, for some people, they can get beyond that, but there's not one answer that solves all of this. You got to put all these little kind of clues together to figure out what is and what isn't. Because let's be honest, there are some people out there who are getting paid to do reviews and not disclosing it. I know that for a fact because I've had sponsors tell me, hey, I had one recently reach out to me going, do you charge for this? And I'm like, no, we don't. Why? And they're like, well, there's another channel that we know, and it's actually a channel that's a good bit bigger than mine, that was charging them to do a video and then not disclosing it. And they were pretty upset about it because they're on the hook also. So if a company pays a content creator and that content creator does not disclose, not only is the content creator in violation of federal law, but so is the company that paid them. So a lot of these major companies are going to be like, hey, you definitely need to disclose this. Although not all of them, and I'm going to talk about a specific case here in just a little bit, all right? So the second thing, though, besides getting paid, is free tools. And that's the one I see a lot. We get a lot of free tools here, and people are like, oh my gosh, well, you got that free, so you've got to be completely biased. I can't trust you because you got the thing for free. You should pay for it yourself. Well, I can see this affecting, let's be honest, I can see this affecting smaller channels, all right? Newer channels, smaller channels, it's really cool. I remember the first time I got sent a free product, it was from Lowe's. They sent me 2 of their Cobalt power tools, and we just hit 11,000 subscribers, and I thought, wow, this is a big thing. Finally, it's going off. And I didn't think anybody else reached out to me again until we were like over 20,000. But things have changed. Now you'll see channels that have like 1,000 subs get sent free tools. So the game changes, and lots of more people are getting free tools. But the reality is, the first time you get it, it's cool. The 100th time you get something sent to you for free, the novelty's kind of worn off here, all right? Because you have to look at it in the grander scheme of things. How cool is it to get a free tool? Like here, I got this just sitting on my desk, an Olight. They send me these things all the time. Every month I get 1 or 2 Olights sent to me, often the same stuff. It's cool, and usually it just turns around and ends up being a gift. We're going to talk more about our policies later, but at the end of the day, how much value does something like this really have? The first time, sure, it's pretty cool. The 100th time, oh, where am I going to store this? Now I got to buy some shelves to put all this stuff on. It's all relative, and at the end of the day, especially once you get to become a full-time content creator, you get to be a bigger channel, it's not that big a deal. It really isn't all that exciting. Now, the easy way to tell if somebody is being biased is if they don't disclose, all right? If someone's getting a free product and doesn't say, hey, by the way, they sent this for free. Like with Olight, when I do a video on Olight, I'm like, hey, by the way, Olight sent this to us, or thanks to Olight for sending this. At the end, I try to say, yeah, by the way, links are down below. Thanks again to Olight for sending these tools for review. And in the video details, it'll say, thanks for Olight for sending these for review. But there are some, and in most cases, honestly, if someone's going to lie about it, it's pretty difficult. But there's a couple of cases where it can be glaringly obvious. All right, I saw a video today. This is kind of what prompted me to finally do this video, because I've been thinking about it, talking to myself about it for years. Is that somebody was reviewing a product and they had it in hand. They're like, hey, look at this product. Look what it does. Look how amazing it is. And I was sitting there going, that's not out yet. And they hadn't, and the reason I was having that kind of apoplexy is because they hadn't disclosed. They didn't. I watched the entire video, and nowhere did they disclose that they'd gotten this product for free. And I looked at the video details. There's nothing down there saying, hey, by the way, I got this new product for free. It was from a major manufacturer. And I was like, wow, that's insane. And I know that they don't have it because the product had only recently been announced. And it was only available for pre-order. I know because I pre-ordered it. So I'm sitting there going, I can't get it for free unless the company sends it to me, or I can't get it before now unless the company sends it to me. So the only way this person had it was the company, a rep from the company reached out to them and said, hey, we wanted to give you this for free. And then they didn't disclose it. And sadly enough, the company apparently doesn't have any issue with it. I don't know. Maybe the company does have issues with it, but I've seen this company look the other way before. All right. It was, I'm not going to disclose the channel or the product or anything like that. And I don't know why companies choose to do this. Yes, they're violating federal law, but maybe it's better for them. I guess they just assume it's better for them. It'll work out better. Lying to you all and risking, rolling the bones and hoping the feds don't come up on them. For me, it baffles the mind, but that's the way that goes. Now, one company I do want to talk about, and specifically where I've had this issue, is Milwaukee. Milwaukee has reached out to me numerous times about testing products, but about 4 years ago, I think it was right before the pandemic, it was the first time they reached out to me and said, hey, saw your channel, looked at all your videos, love it, think it's great, we want to send you some stuff. And this was when I think it was the FTC had just passed this new regulation saying that all this disclosure had to happen. And all my other companies I work with were like, hey, just make sure you disclose, make sure you disclose. So just to be, to make sure that, they knew that we were up to date on the rules, we were being ethical and everything. I was like, hey, by the way, and this was at the end of the conversation, they told me all these 3 things they were going to send me. And I said, hey, just to let you know, just put your mind at rest, we are up on all the new regulations, and we will fully disclose that these products were sent to us for free. And the guy on the other end of the line was like, oh, okay. Well, I just get authorization from my manager, and as soon as I get that, I will, I'll send these over. And I never heard back from him. And about once or twice a year, I get that same phone call. Hey, we'd love to work with you, yada, 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 and then ghosted. And I thought maybe it was something weird. I thought maybe it was just random, like just kind of like maybe, who knows? Who knows? You never want to, I don't want to think the worst. And then I started running into them at trade shows. And people at the trade show, oh my gosh, I want to, in fact, the last one, I was at a trade show. I think it was last time I was at SEMA. And they're like, let me get the manager. We want to get you signed up as, on the hot list to get you all the new stuff. And this was the person who was the product specialist for this product. And they went and they got the manager, and the manager comes walking around. They always have this little private booth thing at the trade shows. She comes walking around. She's got a clipboard. She looks up. She sees me. She goes like this, stops, turns to the person, tells them to lean in, whisper, whisper, whisper. She turns around and leaves. And the guy comes back and he's like, yeah, so anyway, we got your information and we'll let you know. Ever since I told Milwaukee I was going to disclose that they sent me free products, they've never had any interest in working with me. So take that for what it's worth. All right, the third area I want to talk about, and honestly, the other two are really obvious, all right? This is one that a lot of people think, oh, this is harmless, this can't hurt anybody, and that is affiliate dollars. Whenever it's like, and I'm one of the biggest ones, like, hey, by the way, don't forget, down below, links. If you like what you see there, go and click on the links, and you'll see that there's a big disclosure down there about, hey, these links are affiliate links, and we get, a couple pennies off of every dollar you spend. Maybe you're like, yeah, it's a few cents here, a few cents there. It doesn't come out of my pocket. And they don't, and so it's not going to affect the creator. They're not going to be biased about it, right? Well, if you're a smaller channel and you're just getting, pennies here and there, sure, it's not really a big deal. I have a friend who has a channel, has over 1 million subs. He reviews products all the time. That's all he does, his product reviewer. He's in a totally different niche. It's miscellaneous products and stuff. He doesn't do tools at all. And anyway, he told me he makes about $50,000 a month. And that was, honestly, that was 4 years ago. He probably makes a lot more than that. 4 years ago, he told me he makes $50K a month just from Amazon affiliate dollars on his videos. Think about that. Right? If a channel is reviewing 3 tools and one of those tools is sold at like Harbor Freight, okay? One is sold at Home Depot and one is sold on Amazon. Now consider also the fact Amazon pays 3% affiliate links usually, all right? Home Depot pays 1%. You want to guess how much Harbor Freight pays? Because a lot of people make this assumption like, oh, you're getting paid from Harbor Freight, yada, yada. Harbor Freight doesn't pay squat, folks. They don't pay for ads. They don't pay for affiliates. They do send out free tools, but that's it. If I sit here and I'm like, hey, I got a choice between, let's see if we got a tool. So if I got a choice between, this tool that's sold on Amazon and this tool that's sold at Harbor Freight, and actually I think they're both Knipex, but anyway, if I'm like, hey, you can either buy this tool from Amazon or this tool from Harbor Freight, let's do a test, and I know if I say the Harbor Freight tool won that test, I'm not getting $50K this month. But if I choose this one, I am. That's a lot of money. And that's in 1 month. That's how much affiliate dollars are worth. People are all worried about whether somebody paid for a tool. I got the tools for free. Well, he got that $10 screwdriver for free. Dude's making $50K a month, and you're worried about whether someone paid out of the pocket for a $10 screwdriver. You got to get some priorities there. That's all I got to say. Again, when I talk about these people who think everyone thinks they're Sherlock Holmes on the internet, and you're arguing about pennies when people are raking in Benjamins. So now here's the fourth one, and this is one a lot of people overlook. Free trips. Now, this used to be a big thing in the 80s and also in the 90s, especially in the medical industry and stuff like that. But it's also here on YouTube. And you'll see a lot of people across the board, not just tools. Actually, tools probably the least. Some of the other ones, they get flown all over. Now, being a content creator, I follow a lot of stuff about technology that has to do with content creation. Specifically, I'm always looking at Sony cameras and stuff like that. Well, there was a big discussion about content creators getting flown to Tokyo. I would like to go to Tokyo. my daughter just got back from Tokyo, and I'm so upset with her. She's part of an exchange student thing. She had a fantastic time, by the way, super jealous. I think it's a great program, and if there's one in your community, I highly recommend that you support it because it's just great, the exchange, what the kids get to bring back and forth. It's awesome. But that said, I didn't get to go. But, and these people do usually disclose, hey, by the way, Sony flew us to blah, blah, blah. But across the board in the tool community, I see content creators all the time popping up in all these different places. And, oh, look, we're doing this. And we're having a blower battle between our two friends. And we're doing this. And not one of them discloses, oh, and by the way, so-and-so flew us here. All right. And put us up in a 4-star hotel and took us out for steak dinners and drinks and does that every night. And we get picked up by, shuttles and limos and stuff and treated like royalty. I'm sorry, but a luxury trip with a few hours of work thrown in there in the middle, that's a pretty big benefit if you ask me. I've been offered trips to, and yeah, because a lot of people are like, well, you're just mad because you didn't get offered. I have been offered trips. In the past 2 years alone, I've been offered trips to Miami, to New York, to Chicago, to Dallas, to Ohio. Okay, that really is probably not a benefit. To Vegas. Again, for those of you who don't know, I go to Vegas 6-7 times a year, so not much of a benefit. To South Carolina. That one sounds weird, but there's actually a lot of tool companies based in South Carolina. TTI is one of the big ones. Actually, it was TTI that offered me that trip, and I turned that one down. And most recently, just a few weeks ago, I got offered a 2-week, just drop-dead gorgeous trip to China. They offered to fly me there first class. I was going to meet with a ton of different manufacturers, get all these, tours of all the manufacturing sites. And they're going to take us to like the Forbidden City and the Great Wall of China and all these other cool, heritage sites and stuff like that. And it was going to be just this whirlwind trip, but just amazing trip. And of course, I started to drool like, oh my gosh, that would be amazing. I would love to see this stuff. And then I started thinking about it, and I reached out to a friend I have. You guys don't know, I used to go look at my LinkedIn. All right, you'll see my you look me up. You can tell that I used to be a C-level exec in Silicon Valley, and I've got quite a few high-level connections. Well, a friend of mine who's also kind of in that same kind of situation has got connections to the State Department, and they're like, you've been doing a lot of really negative reviews on some pretty major companies over there. You might not want to take that trip. And I'm like, really? And they said, well, let's look into it. So we did a little bit of digging and phone calls were made. And yeah, I'm not going to be going to China because I would like to come back. So apparently I'm persona non grata. There's a good chance that I might not make the trip back. I'm not saying anybody in particular. I'm not saying, but that like I did a really negative video about Segway that kind of went, semi-viral and, but Segway reached out to me. So I'm not so much worried about them. I don't want you guys guessing and stuff. But there's a lot of companies that we've said negative things about and a lot more that I'm going to say negative things about. Foxwell is one that I've been meaning to do a video on because I get threatened with legal action all the time. And we'll talk about the Foxwell one here later. All right. So anyway, the trips, the disclosures, all that kind of stuff. I didn't mean to go on the tangent about China and whatnot, but it's just kind of a funny story. But here's another one. And this is one that a lot of people also miss, and that is connections. Do they have friends and family that work there? Did they used to work there? Do they still work there? Do they work for a competitor? That's a big one. I see that happen every so often. Are they hoping to get hired as a spokesperson for that company? And yes, I do know a specific content creator who early on was like, I want to become a spokesperson for this company. And everything that company does is just absolutely golden. And everything anybody else does is complete trash. And watching his videos are like, you ever see the infomercials where they're like trying to crack an egg? And isn't it so terrible? I can't just do this basic thing that people do hundreds of times a day. That kind of silliness. Well, they're like with a wrench. Oh, look, it's just sliding off. I can't control it. It's got a mind of its own. That kind of ridiculousness. So there are people out there who, for all sorts of weird reasons, trying to get hired as a spokesperson. The company sponsors something they care about. My son, full disclosure, my son's football team is sponsored by one of the founders of Home Depot, Arthur Blank. He lives in Paradise Valley, just down the road here in Montana, and he sponsors a lot of stuff around here. Really nice guy when it comes to supporting the community. He isn't going to make me shop at Home Depot anymore because, I mean, hell, he already made his money. He's gone. But there are cases where there are businesses that support local teams and schools and stuff like that, and people really, really appreciate it. I really appreciate that he supports that. And in fact, actually at the local rodeo, there's a lot of local businesses that support the rodeo. We love going to the rodeo. My son's involved in rodeo. So yeah, when I see that, I'm going to shop there more often. And, you know, is it more likely to get me to say something? Like Murdoch's, that's a local farm and ranch store similar to Tractor Supply. I talk about them quite highly. I do like the store. I try to be honest, but they also do sponsor the rodeo, so maybe there's some bias there. I should probably mention that next time. All right, and then the other one is just, and this one's kind of weird, just general good or bad feelings. Like for me, and I try to say this every time I talk about it, Craftsman and SK, I'm a fanboy of, all right? And I say don't fanboy for stuff, but these are fanboy things that happened when I was little. You know, I saw, when I was a wee little cub, I'd look up and I saw, you know, people I admire using Craftsman tools or using SK tools. And I thought that's what I want for me when I get older. And so now, even though those companies are both kind of, yeah, you know what, I still have this bias that makes me think, well, maybe it'll be okay this time. Oh, Johnny, you never learn. Anyway, just crush your dreams. This is me sitting right next to 2 Craftsman toolboxes that I paid out of pocket for, and they're still just tinfoil junk. Anyway, yeah. You know, another good example is people when it comes to political and social issues. There are some people who are like, that company did X, Y, Z. I'm never supporting them. Look at Chick-fil-A. Clearly the best chicken any fast food restaurant has ever made. And yes, I've had Popeyes, and it's okay when on Sundays when Chick-fil-A isn't open. But other than that, I'm going to Chick-fil-A, brother. That's just all there is to it. But it goes into the tool realm as well. In fact, just in reverse, when you get people talking, not just content creators, but other people chatting, making comments, and they're going to have bias also. I get people, because we are one of the largest channels that focus a lot on the good stuff that Harbor Freight is doing. We get a lot of haters who come here who just, it's usually a case of not so much that they hate Harbor Freight, if they like something else, so they're going to tear down everything else. And they like to call it China Freight, or why are you supporting China? You're supporting the CCP, you're supporting all this. And then I look at the comments they make in other channels, and they're like, oh, I was at Home Depot and I dropped $3 grand on new tools and stuff. And I'm like, where do you think those tools were made? All right. Harbor Freight's got a ton of tools made in Taiwan. They even have a good selection of tools made in the U.S. these days. Not everything there is or ever was all made in China, but they don't say that kind of stuff about Menards or Ace or Home Depot or Lowe's or Amazon or anywhere else. That's the bias you got to keep looking for. It's like it's almost like black mold. All right. If you don't go looking for it, you seldom see it. All right. But when you go looking for it, you got to be, once you find it, you're like, ooh, we got to get rid of that. So you got to adjust for it. Make sure you clean it out. Make sure you know what you're dealing with. All right. Now, how do we deal with this on the channel? Well, so when it comes to like paid sponsorships, our policy is this. It's like we call it the Disney policy, all right? That is, if you've ever been to Disney, it's like getting a fast pass. You can go to the front of the line, but once you're there, it's the same ride everyone else is getting. You're not getting special treatment other than getting moved up front. And we fully disclose, hey, this is a paid ad. And, I will say this, I seldom think that there's truly any bad tools out there. I think you just got to figure out what niche, how they work. Right tool for the right job. And as I often say, that job may be as a doorstop, but if the price is right, that can be a darn good doorstop, all right? And the other policy is we don't charge for our core niche. Now, what does that mean? Well, we are a hand and power tool channel. That's our core niche that we're in. So if Kinepix reaches out to me and says, hey, we want to send you a free tool, like this one, Kinepix did send this to us. We did a video on it. I don't sit there and say, or I don't sit there and go, hey, we'll do a video, but you have to pay us. All right. But if it's, say, what is this, a dash cam, oh my gosh, senior moment there. It was a dash cam, or I'm trying to think if I have anything else around here. Flashlights, stuff like that. We might, depending on how interested in the product I am, how new and how newsworthy I think it is. I will often be like, okay, yeah, you have to pay to get that on here. Why? Well, usually they're smaller companies. And secondly, I look at it as it's a threshold, a barrier to entry. If they can't afford what I'm charging them, and I always try to charge too much, because if they can afford it, then I feel they're truly committed. This is a company who's like, okay, we've allotted finances. This is real. We're going to make this happen. But there's a lot of fly-by-night companies who are basically often just drop shippers, and they don't want to invest anything. Well, I don't want to support them on the channel because I don't know if they're going to back the tools. And if they can't pay, X amount of dollars, then they're not going to get a video because clearly they're not committed enough to their own products. That's the way I look at it. Also, we make those new companies pay in full in advance. That way, I can say whatever the hell I want, and if they don't like it, I've already cashed the check. So that's a them problem, as we like to say. Now, what about free stuff? We get this one a lot. You get free stuff, you'll take free stuff from anybody. Yeah, sure we will. Doesn't mean I guarantee I'm going to do a video, but you're welcome to send it over. And we might do a video, we might not do a video. If it's worthy, basically it falls into, if it's really terrible, I'll do a video on it. If it's good, or I can find a general use for it, or it's newsworthy, I'll do a video on it. If it's kind of just meh, and I don't think, and like a no-named company that I don't think anyone's going to buy if I don't talk about it, then I'm not going to really do a video on it. It's not bad enough to make me go, hey, don't buy that. And it's not good enough for me to endorse it, so why waste the time on it? Nobody even knows about it anyway. And as I said before, is there really any value by the time I get 274 flashlights? I mean, there's only so many I can carry at any one time. It does help around Christmas with like the people you just kind of know. You're like, oh, so-and-so's birthday. What are you going to do? Oh, they're getting a flashlight. It really, and it sounds arrogant to say this, but if you've got, how about this? If you're a farmer and you're getting chickens all the time, or you're getting eggs all the time, at some point you're like, or if you get a fruit tree in your backyard, pomegranates, stuff like that, you're like, here, have some pomegranates because I need to get rid of this stuff, because at some point it really isn't of value to you. Anyway, and I will say this, people are like, well, what about the big stuff? Harbor Freight sent you, that new white tool cabinet. That thing's worth, was it $2 or $3 grand with everything? Yeah, it sure is. And I had to get rid of a toolbox to make room for it that was worth $2 or $3 grand. I had a Tecton box that I really liked that Tecton had sent me. And I had to get rid of that to make room for this. And before that, I had another Harbor Freight toolbox, an Icon, that I had to get rid of so Tecton could send me a box. I only have so much room, and why do we do this? Why do we get rid of one to get the next one? It's what we do here. We review stuff, so I can only keep stuff for so long. I have to move on and try whatever's new, so I can stay up to date and tell you about what's going on in it. So at some point, it's like, yeah, it's cool and all, but do I really need it? No. And I get people like, well, you could sell it, make a ton of money. You've clearly never been on Facebook Marketplace. Oh my gosh. First of all, I have to pay taxes. I have to declare all this stuff and pay taxes on the value of it. So my first choice is I donate a lot of it. Anything we don't need to keep around for long-term testing, I donate to local nonprofits, all right? Whether it be schools or churches, or there's a local makerspace I've sent, again, like 3D printers and laser cutters too and stuff like that. And then after that, I give it to, I have a lot of friends who are pros in different industries. And I'm like, oh, hey, here's a plumbing tool. I got a buddy who's a plumber. Here's, a saw. Well, I got a buddy who does, construction. He does custom kitchen installs in high-end homes around here. And trust me, there's some high-end homes. And, I'm like, here, go try this saw. Let me know what you think. So I try to find people who are in specific niches who can use these tools the best. And then after a year, I get back to them like, hey, what do you think about that? Are you still using this? Are you still using that? Did it break on you? Was it better than this? Did you go back to the other thing? That's how we get some of our long-term test drives done. If, by the way, you are, if you're one of our long-term viewers and I see you commenting about this kind of stuff and you do this and you do this, I might even reach out to you and ask you, hey, will you test this for us? And we have done that in the past. You can always email me at red@denatools.com. No guarantee that I'm going to reach out to you because unfortunately a lot of times like, hey, I send them something and then they never get back to me. So, but I do have a few people who've been viewers of the channel for a long time who we do send stuff to. In fact, I'm actually doing a video with somebody right now. We're hoping it's going to make it be a big project who I met as being a viewer of the channel. But yeah, selling stuff, it can be done, but think about it. You're still got a bunch of stuff that's pretty much brand new in the box in a lot of cases. And I turned around and have listed on Facebook. Now I just look like that guy who walked in with a mask and walked out of Home Depot with a, like I'm stealing stuff. They're like, why do you have 27 of these? And why are they all brand new? So it's actually really hard to sell stuff like that. Not to mention the fact I'm in rural Montana. There's not a ton of people around here. So if I'm selling something, I'm getting pennies on the dollar for it at best. So we don't do that a lot. As far also, like, as I said, we don't offer ads. Everything we do is a review. And I'm 100% honest about that. And I could try and justify it because honesty is the best policy. Honesty builds a better relationship with this person. And I could say all of that and it would be true. And there's all sorts of justifications. But at the end of the day, it's just it comes down to the kind of person I am and kind of person that other people are. There's either people out there who believe in integrity or they don't. And the people who believe in it, you're not going to change them. The people who don't are trying to, make a fast buck. You're not going to change them either. I remember reading a while ago, I can't remember how long ago it was. There's a saying of, honor is a gift a man gives to himself. And it was something that really stuck with me. And that's always been the kind of person I try to live up to. Because, honor doesn't really get rewarded by other people. You get rewarded by yourself. And that, sure, it's some sort of sense of smugness or something. You can always try and make something a positive thing a negative if you want. But at the end of the day, that's just the kind of person I am. And hopefully it comes through on the channel. And for people who aren't honest, you start seeing the cracks there. And if you watch close enough and you're honest with yourself about it, you'll see the cracks too. So another benefit is also, I got to say, is in the United States, we are fully protected against retribution for reviews, which is why I say I only offer reviews. Any contract or any kind of thing that a company tries to force you when you're doing a review to change your opinion is immediately null and void. All right, I have signed contracts where it says, and you promise not to give any negative reviews. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Because I know that I'm protected by federal law, which is a big part of why I can't go to China. Foxwell, as I was talking about, they threatened me with overwhelming legal action, basically that they would bury me if I said something negative about their product. They sent me, it was a cheap little OBD2 scanner, and I plugged it in, it ran the scan, great, went to do something else, locked up, completely locked up. And I tried it on a bunch of different vehicles, locked up. And they sent me another one, that one worked, and by this point, they're like, well, you got to move quick, blah, 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 get this out, and maybe it has to have positive reviews. And I'm like, well, I got to say that the first one you sent me locked up. I got to tell people that. And we got to be honest. And they're like, well, if you say anything negative, it's going to damage our reputation. And as such, we will be within our rights to sue you into oblivion and beyond. And I'm just like, okay, you guys are schmucks because clearly you don't know U.S. law. And as long as I'm not in China, you can't do squat to me. And I kind of forgot about it because it's just a little, they're a cheap little company. They don't, I don't know, maybe they're popular, I don't know. But recently I've run across 3 other reviews that said the same thing, that they got a hold of one. And these are people who just went out and buy it. And they got a hold of one that was bad, it locked up just the same way mine did. And then when they tried to contact customer service, basically customer service blamed them. So we may actually do a video talking about Foxwell. And if you've had negative reactions with that company, I'd love to hear it down below. Now, another thing people always say is, but if you say negative stuff, company won't keep sending you anything. Well, that's not true. I've said negative stuff about Harbor Freight all the time. I've talked about the recalls. No one talked about the recalls more than I did. I brought it up, was one of the first ones, the loudest voices out there going, hey, they're having these recalls. Their 12-volt tools came out. I said they were nice, but why buy that when you can buy, M12 stuff? Their table saw. I said the table saw was good when it came out. I said, but it's not better than the DeWalt. So, it's up to you to choose which kind of fence you want, and now they both have the same style fence. And a lot of people over at Harbor Freight were really butthurt about that. And I heard a lot of rumors saying that, we should block him and never work with him again. But upper management was like, that's not the way we do things, folks. We're an honest company. We're going to, he had a fair criticism or something. And he's like, he didn't say it was bad. He's like, but it wasn't better. But the people, of course, behind the product, they always it's their baby. They want the best, right? Well, and what it comes down to is these companies need me and other reviewers like me way more than we need them. I can go out and buy the products. Trying to buy and create your own reviewers, that's kind of a tough road to hoe, if you know what I mean. Anyway, at least that's what it is with the bigger guys. As far as the smaller guys, the little hit and miss companies here and there, who cares? As I said, they need me way more than I need. Another air pump. I had one around here somewhere. Anyway, so I can just say whatever I think. And what I've learned is the bigger companies understand about honest reviews, even when they're negative. And the smaller companies, there is always another one to take their place. If they don't want to deal with us, there's 10 more companies in line behind them going, please, please, please let us send you stuff for you to review because this is our shot to become one of the big companies. So anyway, now I want to talk about what our policy versus trips. I don't like flying. It's not that I don't like flying. I don't like airports. I don't like dealing with the TSA and all that other BS. And for most of the stuff, I find regionally, it's not that much further just for me to get my truck and drive. And then when I get someplace, I have to rent a vehicle and I got to pay for that vehicle. Or I just drive my truck and be there and have my truck with all my stuff the way I like it. Yes, I'm getting old. Yes, I'm way past getting crotchety. It's where I'm at, all right? So it's just that kind of situation of, flying is nice, but the trips, unless they're local, I'm probably not going. And then the other thing is, if you guys don't know, I'm a former firearms instructor, big 2A guy, and I always have tools with me and in the vehicle. So driving east through some states makes me, it gets my blood pressure up a little bit. So I try to avoid that whenever possible. So anyway, at the end of the day, what you had to look out for, are there any huge red flags? Yeah, there's a couple we told you about. People talking about stuff before it's out and not disclosing. Getting paid, you'll see people telling basically flat out lies like, hey, this is better than anything else out there. And there's at least 5 other things that are better than it. So, that's another good one to look at and go, hey, there's clearly some bias, whether they're paid, they have a sibling who works there, their dad works there. It was their favorite tool growing up or something. You got to find the ways to look for bias. Don't just sit there and go, I disagree with you, so clearly you're lying. That's not the smart play. And, there are a lot of other channels out there that are really honest and they work really hard. There are channels out there that a lot of people think are honest. And at the end of the day, they're again, you're looking like they didn't spend pennies on this, but they're making, stacks over here on the other side. And you're just ignoring that. So you gotta figure it out. One channel I do want to call out in particular, one of my favorite channels, and I can still remember when they started, and I was like, these guys they're gonna blow up. They're gonna become big. And that is Torque Test Channel. I gotta say, they have a fabulous channel over there, and I just want to congratulate them for hitting 400,000. And they work really hard about being honest. Now, you can talk about whether, it's they don't take free tools or stuff like that, which they don't, and I think that's great. But one thing that I do want to call out as a positive is that one of the members over there, and maybe some of you don't know this, one of the people who works with I think there's 3 of them there. I don't know if it's Torque or Test or Channel. I think it's Test. Anyway, I don't know. They actually work for a company that makes torque wrenches. I believe air-powered torque wrenches, as a matter of fact. And every time that they talk about anything close to that, they're disclosed, oh, by the way, one of our members works for blah, blah, blah. And it seems like a simple thing, especially for somebody from my Midwest background of, you know what, you just tell them, just disclose it, be honest, 100% honesty. You know, they say honesty is the best policy. That way you don't have to go, what did I lie about this time? That's what I always told the kids, I raised them when they were growing up and stuff. Honesty is the best policy, and besides, it makes it easy so you don't have to remember the lies. But they do it. They do the deed. They walk the walk and talk the talk. And as such, one of the reasons why they've grown to be one of the biggest tool channels out there. And I can't wait for them to hit 500K. Anyway, great job over there, guys. Congratulations. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. If you have any questions, if you think I left anything out or want to know more about how we do this or how you can better figure out whether somebody, other ways to find people that are not being honest, let me know down below in the comments. I try to read and answer all of them. You all take care. God bless. And as always, shine on.